Hi everyone, it's Yvette Blowitz from SPAITGIRL.com and welcome to the Spirit Girl Talk Show podcast. I'm super excited to be here with you today and with our very special guest, Logan Ury, who is a behavioral scientist turned dating coach and the author of How to Not Die Alone. Logan Ury provides dating and relationship advice. And after studying psychology at Harvard and mentioned in the New York Times, the Atlantic Times, the Washington Post, Glamour, she's also a TED Talk speaker and super grateful, Logan, you're here with us and the Spirit Girl global audience. Welcome.
Yay, thank you. I'm so excited to be here and really excited to connect with all of your listeners.
Well, Logan, first of all, congratulations on your book, How to Not Die Alone. The title really jumped out of the Booktopia section of the dating and relationship advice. Before we dive into your book, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So thank you so much for that introduction. That was great. My story is that I've always had these two interests, psychology and then dating and relationships. And I am lucky enough to be able to combine the two. And so I spend my time thinking about what are the small decisions that we make in our dating lives and in our relationships, and what do they lead us to? And I really want to help people be on a path towards their goal. And so the book is called How to Not Die Alone, because if you think that you're on a path towards dying alone and that's not the path you want to be on, I want to help you change your behavior, be on a different path, and actually achieve your goals.
So when it came to sitting down to write your book, what was that pivotal moment that you thought, right, that's it, that's the title, I'm doing this, I'm going to sit down and make it happen?
Yes. So what's interesting is I worked in tech for a long time. I worked at Google and then I worked at Airbnb. And I always had this interest in dating and relationships, but there wasn't exactly a job in that. Like, how was I going to make money? You know, lots of people have an interest in dating, but how does that turn into your career? And so what I did was I did this residency at TED where you show up, you're part of a group of about 12 people, and you're all working on different projects. And through that, I was able to write a book proposal. And then I found an agent and a publisher and I sold the book. And so that point, the book was real. Somebody wanted it. Somebody was paying me money for it. And I had a container to do research and explore my ideas. And so that was a key moment where it felt real. In terms of the title, we came up with the title early last year, and my publisher wanted me to call it something much more straightforward, like a guide to finding love, or this is how you find love. And I was just like, that's not really my style. My style is much more tongue-in-cheek, blunt, in your face. And I just wanted a catchy title that made you say, what is this about? And where am I headed? And that made you say, okay, I really want to change my behavior and maybe this book will help me do it.
But if we have someone who is wanting to start, as an example, online dating, what are a couple of tips that you could share for our listeners?
Yeah, so this is a great question, especially because I'm so glad you reminded me what a global audience you have, because people are going through a lot of different things right now. As I understand it, in Australia, COVID has just not been as much of a thing, right? There is a lot of freedom, at least within the country, to travel and to go on dates and to meet up in person. And then in other parts of the world, people don't really have the ability to go on dates and they're doing virtual dates. And so I'll try to address a lot of that. And so if you're somebody who hasn't dated in a year because you've been locked up in pandemic restrictions, a lot of people are experiencing what we call FODA, fear of dating again. And they feel like their dating skills are rusty. And so to that person, I want to say, this is completely normal. A lot of people are going through this. And a lot of my advice is just get back out there and start dating again. Dating is a skill. You only get better at dating when you actively date. And so even if you're a little rusty and it's going to take you some time to get used to it, I really recommend that people put themselves out there and try. if you're someone who hasn't tried online dating before, I would say, what do you have to lose? It's the modern matchmaker. It's the way to meet somebody outside your social network. And once you get to that date, it doesn't matter if you met at the grocery store or through a friend or on an app. Once you get to that date, it's just two people connecting and getting to know each other.
And when it comes to setting up, obviously, the profile, if someone was out there going, I really don't know what to write or what to say or how to present myself in such a way, any tips on that for them?
Yes, absolutely. So the profile is really your chance to make a great first impression. And people are going to judge you based on that first photo. So you want a really strong first photo, sort of like a headshot. It shows what you look like. It's not obscured by sunglasses or a filter. Just, this is my face. This is what I look like. And then for your other photos, you want to show, you really want to tell a story. You want a picture of, here's what I look like when I'm hiking. Here's me cooking because I love cooking. Here's a picture of me with my family or me with my friends. It's really about painting a picture of your whole life and showing a mixture of humor, that you don't take yourself too seriously, but also earnestness, that you are looking for a relationship and you do want to find someone. And so you want to get that perfect blend of earnestness and silliness or sarcasm or humor.
You are a behavioral scientist who have studied this. When people are looking visually at photos, we can get like that instant, like, oh, no, don't like that look, not attracted. Oh, he looks cute. What should we be tuning in with? Like the instant attraction, the kind of reading their profile. You look interesting. Maybe I'll give you a swipe left. What should the listeners really be honing into? Because I know we can be judgmental looking at photos, but it is very much our first way when it comes to online dating.
Yeah, this is a great question. And I feel like you're really speaking to the experience of online dating. And so at the end of the day, there is a superficiality to it because you're looking at maybe one photo or a few photos and deciding, do I like this person or not? And so what I would say is there's a natural human tendency to make a gut reaction, to say immediately, I like this person or I don't like this person based on a photo. Or maybe you look at the job and you say, oh, he's a lawyer. All lawyers are boring. I don't want to date a lawyer. And so actually, what I recommend that people do is be a little bit more open-minded. Instead of using that gut reaction, which is what you've been doing in the past, try something different. Say, okay, he's a lawyer. Some lawyers are interesting, some are boring, just like every other job. And so actually push yourself to see beyond the surface, because the truth is, I've looked at a lot of people's profiles, and many people, especially many men, they just rush through the process of creating their profile. They say, what are the last 6 pictures on my phone? I'll upload them. I'll fill out the bio very quickly. They just want to get to their matches as soon as possible. And so if you overanalyze their profile as if it's this great thesis or manifesto that they spent their whole life working on, you're making a mistake, because that person might have not been as thoughtful in putting their profile together as they are in person. And so, yes, of course, you have to say, am I attracted to them? Am I interested in them? But don't assume that you know everything you need to know about someone just based on a profile.
We've selected a few people we want to have a chat to now. Some people find it a bit awkward texting, especially some people don't like to text. We are hearing that doing a video at some point in time or a phone call before going to meet them in person at the coffee shop is a really great thing to do. Any tips on the talking to and what to do prior to meeting with them for coffee or whatever the date might be?
Yeah. And this is something that my thoughts on have actually changed in the last year or two. So before I was working at Hinge, the dating app, and before the pandemic, I thought, phone calls and video dates, they're not that exciting. You're going to judge someone too quickly. You might reject someone who you would like in person. But then during the pandemic, in places like the US or the UK, meeting over video date became really the only way that people could get to know each other and meet from home and talk in this safe environment. And so I've actually seen a lot of couples develop really close connections over the phone, over video, etc. And so now I'm a fan of that. And so what people are doing is they're using video dating as this low pressure vibe check. It's a step in between. We matched on the app, we messaged a little bit on the app. Now we're going to do a video date or a phone call. And then if we like each other, we'll meet up in person. And people are saying that they really like this because before they spend an hour in their car or $50 on cocktails, they get a sense of, is this the type of person who I'm excited to spend time with?
And I feel that it obviously takes the pressure off and just helps to reduce nerves. Because in person, you're a bit like, oh, I can't just say I've got to go. When it comes to being on the dates, should people from the get-go be really honest with what they're interested in, what they're looking for, or should that person just be more about finding out more about who they're having a chat with or talking about their personal interests and keeping it a little bit more about lifestyle questions and topics and things?
Yeah, thank you for asking this question. We just did some really cool research on this at Hinge. And what we found is that if you put on your profile, I'm looking for a relationship, that's a really good strategy because people who are also looking for a relationship are way more likely to contact you because they're like, oh, we're looking for the same thing. And people who aren't looking for a relationship are way less likely to contact you because they say we're not looking for the same thing. And so it really saves time because you're hearing more from the people who you want something from and less from the people who are just going to end up wasting your time. I interviewed a guy from my book who said, I had just gotten out of a breakup. I was just looking for something casual and I didn't want to lead people astray. And so in the beginning, he thought, if I say I'm just looking for something casual, I'll turn a lot of people off. But what ended up happening is some women said, thanks for letting me know. That's not what I'm looking for. But a lot of women said, great, I just got out of a breakup. I just want to have fun. I'm moving in a month. And he found a lot of women who also wanted to keep things casual. And so the lesson there is if you're looking for something serious, say it. If you're looking for something casual, say it. Regardless, you're much better off being honest about what you want because you're respecting yourself and you're respecting other people's time.
Now, when we go to offline dating, we're being inspired to kind of communicate with people, which is really hard if people have got a mask on. There was this notion that you could go to the grocery store or a hardware store or somewhere, the gym, and meet a guy or a girl. This is becoming more increasingly hard. What's your take on this? Are you hearing stories or know of any stories where people have just kind of like gazed at someone at the grocery store, given them their mobile number, and off they walk?
I definitely have heard of stories of people meeting at the hardware store, people meeting on a plane, people meeting in line at a coffee shop. But honestly, the truth is those are the exception and not the rule. And the reason why it's funny to me that you brought it up, and maybe you did this on purpose, is that in the book, I talk about a type of dater called the romanticizer. And this is the person who loves love. They believe in a soulmate, one person for life, that this person is going to find them and they're going to have this epic we met story. And that once they find the perfect person, love will be effortless. And the issue is that the person who's a romanticizer sits around waiting for the guy to find them on the plane or waiting for the beautiful woman to walk into the coffee shop. And that's just not how most people meet these days. We know from research that the majority of people, the majority of successful, happy couples meet online. And so if you're sitting around saying, well, I'm looking glamorous at the coffee shop and nobody's approached me, that's just not the right attitude. You should go after what you want and you should make things happen because there's no guarantee that any sort of Disney meet cute is going to happen.
Hear this saying, you need to love yourself before you can love others. What's your take on this?
It's really interesting. One of the things I did when I was writing my book was I wrote down a lot of folk wisdom about dating. And I found that so many things are opposite. So some people might say you have to love yourself before you can love anybody else. And other people will say when you find the perfect person, they will complete you. And so it's interesting how people are affected by the fact that these stories are in conflict. And so what I would say is that you want to be a person who has high self-confidence, who loves themselves, who believes that they should be treated well, and who really advocates for themselves, because you're going to train other people on how to treat you. At the same time, I don't want you to be what I call a hesitator, which is a person who sits at home and says, I'm so messed up, I need to go to therapy, I need to lose weight, and they never actually go on the date because they're so concerned about being that complete person first. And so the answer is that it's a mixture. You need to love yourself because you need to teach other people how to treat you, but you also can love yourself and grow and learn while you're in a relationship. And so I would say go out there and start dating, hold yourself in high regard, but also continue to work on yourself while you're dating, because if you just sit at home waiting until you're perfect, you'll never actually put yourself out there.
One of the common complaints I continually hear from people is I'm doing online dating, meeting guys, but they just don't want to commit. But we've touched on that a little bit earlier, that if they have it on their profile, that's great because you can filter it out. But there are still some people who might not have it on their profile, so it's kind of hard to know. Is it okay for the person just to ask in a question when they're texting, what are you looking for?
It's a great question, and I get this one a lot. And what's hard is that you can't guarantee that everyone's going to be honest, right? If somebody wants to meet up with you or wants to sleep with you, at the end of the day, they can say, oh, I'm looking for this thing, when they're actually looking for something else. And so I don't want to be naive. I want to call out that, of course, people can misrepresent themselves. But my advice here is either put it on your profile, which through our research at Hinge had a good reaction, or on a first date, you can say something like, I've been dating for a while. I know myself. I know what I want. And I'm ready to really find someone and commit to a serious relationship. What about you? What are you looking for? And the reason why that works well is you don't sound needy. You don't sound desperate. You're not like, don't waste my time. If you're not ready for a girlfriend or whatever, I don't want to see you. You just model the behavior of, I'm self-aware. I know who I am. This is my journey. And then you create space for them to say, here's where I am. And why I like the framing that I said is that it creates an opportunity for the person to either say, oh yeah, I'm also looking for a relationship, or for the person to say, to be honest with you, I've been married and I'm divorced and I just want to have fun right now. And so the more that you can actually create an environment for somebody to be honest with you, the more the chances are that they're actually going to share what's going on and not just tell you what you want to hear.
When people are doing their Zoom dates or their video dates or in-person date, if they're just feeling like, there's not a chemical reaction, or I just don't feel connected, is it okay for them after the date to just kind of say, it was great to catch up, but I just didn't feel a deep connection or a connection?
Yeah, this is something that I think about all the time. And I have a chapter in my book called F the Spark. And it's sort of become my unofficial tagline. And the idea behind saying F the Spark is, I have spoken to so many people who say to me, Logan, I met up with this guy. He was great. We talked for a long time. We had a really good time. I'm not going to see him again. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then the man will say, nah, I just didn't feel the spark with him. And there's just this sense of that guy is waiting for this instant chemistry, this magnetic energy, these fireworks, and that anything but that means it can't be a match. And look, that's just kind of an immature way of doing it. Like, we're not in high school. We're not looking for the prom king. We're not looking for the Disney prince. We're looking for a person to build our life with. And some of the best people in the world are what I call the slow burn, the person who gets better over time, who maybe when you meet them, they're not initially the most charming, but they would be a great long-term partner. And so unless the person really offends you or there's a lot of red flags, I would say give that person a chance and see what unfolds when you get to know them better and peel back the layers.
We are on virtual dating here at the moment. Picture this to our listeners and Logan. We're at the coffee shop. We have two options: to leave our phone on the table, possibly maybe to check some messages or who knows what, or in our handbags or away. What's your advice on this?
Great question. Yes, there is really cool research that is all about how people connect when technology is around. And what they find is that the conversation is 40% more shallow, so 40% less deep when a cell phone is on the table, even if it's off, even if it's turned over. And there's a really interesting reason why, which is that if I'm talking to you and I feel like your phone is about to go off at any minute, or I might say something vulnerable and then you look down to check a text, I just don't feel that comfortable sharing with you because I don't have your unfiltered attention. I'm sharing your attention with your phone. And so the conversation will be deeper, richer, and more vulnerable if we keep our phones in our pockets or in our bags and we give each other our full attention. And so if you're someone listening who has bad phone habits and checks your texts or check the timing during a date, don't do it. Look, put on a watch. Do what you need to do, but really keep your phone away. You're going to have better conversations on your dates.
When it comes to breaking up with someone that you have had some kind of, I guess, intimate relationship with, maybe it's been 3 months, maybe it's been 4 weeks even. When it comes to breaking up, obviously, if it's been an intimate relationship, what are your tips on how to approach a breakup? Because I get lots of complaints where people will just be, he just blocked my phone number.
Yeah.
I never heard from him. He just completely wiped me. Like, I would have appreciated a phone call or even a text.
Breakups are so fascinating. And when I set out to do the work I'm doing in the field of dating and relationships, I didn't expect that I would spend so much time researching breakups. But the truth is that one of the best ways to help a lot of people get into great relationships is help them get out of bad or mediocre ones. And so I really have done a lot of research on what makes people decide to break up, what are the questions you should ask, and how should you do it, and how should you stick to it. And so in my book, I have these 10 steps that help you get through a breakup. And some of them are using the research from goal setting theory. And so what that means is if you wanted to lose weight, if you wanted to go back to school, if you wanted to buy a house, you would set a goal for yourself and you'd say, what are the steps that I need to take to get there? And what are the things that are going to make me more successful on the way? And so in the book, the whole breakup chapter is based on setting a goal of breaking up. And so some of the early things are deciding, do I want to break up or not? If the answer is yes, write yourself a letter saying why you want to break up so that in a month or two, when you're feeling lonely or you're missing your partner, you don't regress back. You read the book, you read the letter and you say, oh yeah, I broke up with her because she made me unhappy, or I broke up with him because we just weren't headed in the same direction. You also want to involve a friend. You want to say to your friend, look, I've made this decision. It's the right thing for myself. Will you hold me to it? I'm going to do it in 2 weeks. Will you hold me to it and make sure I do it on that day? You also want to practice what you're going to say. You want to be respectful. You want to be compassionate. You're about to blow up a bomb in someone's life. They may not know that this is happening. And so don't do it an hour before their parents come to town or they have a big meeting. Do it when they'll have at least a weekend or more to recover. And then other things are, don't have sex with them. That's very confusing. I know people love breakup sex, but it just makes it harder to leave the person and move on. And my final thought is, don't be the quote unquote nice breakup guy. Don't be that person who says, hey, how are you? I'm just thinking about you. Because at the end of the day, you're actually doing that more for yourself so that you feel good and less for that person to make them happy. Because in the end, it's going to be easier for them to move on if you actually give them some space to maybe even be mad at you or hate you. But you really need to give them that time to get over the breakup.
Should you stop looking at their social media feeds?
Yes, this is something that a lot of people want to hear. And let me say it loud and clear. block your ex. Stop talking to your ex. There's this misconception where you think, oh, what's the harm? I can still talk to her. I can still talk to him. It doesn't hold me back from anything, but that's absolutely not true. We know from the research that it's really, really important that you create space in your life for someone new and you block the ex. And so I would say to you, go to your phone right now, block them on Instagram, block them on Facebook, delete their number, because it is holding you back and it is making it harder for you to move on and find somebody new.
Love it. Block your ex. When it comes to things about asking and finding out about when you're dating, people are very much, I wonder how he broke up with his ex. I didn't want to ask him. Like, he didn't mention anything. Should we be waiting until that person kind of brings up their breakups from past relationships or why their marriage didn't work out? Very personal and intimate things.
It's really interesting. There's this question of when do you reveal what's going on for you? And so we talked about this a little bit. And from the beginning, I was saying you should say, this is what I'm looking for, because you're turning the right people on and turning the wrong people off. And so when it comes to revealing things like maybe the fact that you're divorced or that you have a kid, I think it's a little bit of a dance where you get to know someone and you reveal something like, hey, I'm a little nervous going into this date. It's been a while. And then the other person, do they match you? And do they say, oh, thanks for sharing that, I also feel nervous? Or do they just sort of not respond to that? And so you are constantly paying attention to how is the conversation going? Is this person matching my energy, matching my vulnerability? Are they listening, or are they just waiting for their turn to talk? And if that person has earned your trust and earned to hear your story, that's how you decide, I'm going to share something and I'm going to share something a little bit more. And so it's really this idea of matching their energy and matching their vulnerability level.
Online dating is happening. You've written this incredible book, How to Not Die Alone. But if someone's going, you know what, I don't have time to fit dating in, should we be carving out time each day or every week to literally look for dates? Should this become part of our, like, we do a workout, we brush our teeth, we go for a walk? People are really struggling with fitting the searching part in. And the feedback I get is I look for a while and then I don't see anyone I'm interested in. And then I get over it and then I'm done.
It's interesting. I mean, I talked a little bit about the hesitator, the person who sits and says, I'm just not ready to date yet. I'll be ready to date when I lose 10 pounds or when I, have a more impressive car, or I figure myself out, or I go to therapy. And I think the big issue with that is people assume that one day they'll wake up and feel ready to date, and that's just not the case. Dating is a skill, and you get better at it by putting yourself out there. And so for anyone who's listening, and I understand you have a lot of professional women and people who are very career-oriented, it's very easy to say, okay, if I put 2 hours into marketing or 2 hours into hiring, I know what I'm going to get from that effort. But if I put 2 hours into a first date, maybe the person will be a total dud. And you just sort of get addicted to the productivity and the work aspect, and you don't put time into dating. But look, if you want to find someone and your goal is to find a partner, you have to put consistent effort in. And consistent effort means a couple times a week, go online, go on the apps, do some swiping, do some messaging, and really contact someone. I came up with this idea a few days ago with one of my coaching clients. We said 3 days a week, 30 minutes a day. And in 3 weeks, I wanted her to go on at least one date. And so 3 times 30 times 3. And can people listening set a goal for themselves right now with something like that? You need to do consistent effort of going on the app. You need to follow up and build momentum, and you need to get out there and actually go on a date.
I love that. 3 by 3, they're going on the date, because I'm very much for my meditation, having to do, say, the 10 minutes each day, and for it to become a ritual. Now, we can have loads of fun with dating, can't we? With online dating. And would you suggest that sometimes we are so nearly like so stressed out, or we put so much pressure on the fact that we're just going to go out for a coffee with someone, or even do it on Zoom with a coffee. Do you feel that people, or we should stop putting so much pressure on ourselves, make more fun of it, and look at it like with curiosity and adventure, and kind of bring back the fun of it?
Yeah, that was super well said. I think people go on a date like they're a job interview where it's like, I'm going to sit across from you and I'm going to quiz you on where did you go to university and what did you study and how many siblings do you have? And it's not fun and it's not sexy and people don't enjoy the dates. And so, how can we bring the fun and the play back? And you're not interviewing somebody for the role of your future spouse. You're just saying, let's meet up. Let's have a good time. Let's get to know each other and let's see, do we want to meet up again? And so I would really say if you're somebody who's putting a lot of pressure on yourself and needs to have the perfect date, and if the first date isn't exactly what you expected, you don't go out again, you're probably doing yourself a disservice. And instead, how can you go in with a more relaxed, fun attitude? Because that's what people are drawn to, not somebody who's going to be overly serious and making it like a job interview.
Title, How Not to Die Alone, and the book is just going off, can I say? And even in Australia, it's made its way all the way over here to Australia with
Yay!
Booktopia. So we're part of the SPAITGIRL book club. Your book has joined the SPAITGIRL book club. It's on Booktopia here in Australia, but available globally. But how exciting is it now to see your book out and to get people reading it, responding to it, and you feel like, wow, all that work of sitting down and doing it, or the editing or working with the team, was so worth it?
Yeah, it's been incredible. You're exactly right. Writing is so solitary. I sat at an office by myself with my laptop, writing the book every day for a year. I did editing for a year. It's so much back and forth. It's so many spell checks and grammar checks and changing words around. And it's very, very solo, and you're not getting feedback. It's not on Instagram. All of a sudden your book comes out and you're hearing from people around the world, and people want to talk to you and coach, be coached by you, and you're seeing people reading it on a plane. And so it's just so fun to create a real artifact, a thing that you can hold in your hand and really feel like you're having an impact on people's lives.
I'm so grateful you wrote the book and you made it happen, especially in COVID. I've spoken to so many women, even in London, who had been in extreme lockdown for 3 months on end during winter, where going out to a coffee shop was a non-event, being isolated, and then having to date via video is the new norm. But I feel that your book is taking anxiety out of dating, and also helping people to feel hopeful that they can date, that they can meet someone, that they can, like, there's hope in this book. How does that make you feel when there's like our podcast listeners at home thinking, they're so overwhelmed, like, I'm so scared, I don't want to die alone. And then they see your book, How to Not Die Alone, and they're like, I need to get this, because isolation during COVID has been overwhelming. It must be such a beautiful feeling.
Thank you. Yeah, I have gotten some comments where people say everyone dies alone, or there's nothing wrong with dying alone. And of course, that is true. The title is meant to be tongue in cheek. It's meant to say, if you're looking for love and you haven't found it, here are some tips to get out of your own way and find it. But I'm absolutely not saying that every single person needs to find a partner. Some people are very happy being single. And so, yes, I love the idea of empowering people and saying there's nothing wrong with you. You're perfectly fine and lovable. You're just making some mistakes. You have some bad habits, and let's diagnose them and help you overcome them.
Now, Logan, you give so much to others. You are always researching. I mean, you've written your best-selling book, How to Not Die Alone. You do so much writing for Thrive Global, writing for PopSugar, like so many high-profile magazines and websites. You do so much talking. so much coaching. You're a real go-getter. You're in an incredible relationship yourself. But how do you take care of your own self? And what are some of your self-care rituals that allow you to live this lifestyle and your way of life now?
I mean, the first thing I'll say is I'm still very much figuring it out. I'm sure I should be sleeping more, eating healthier, spending more time outside, working out more. And so I definitely have room for improvement on the self-care side of things. On some level, editing the book and having it come out during the pandemic, in some ways that was nice because there wasn't that much else going on. There was a lot of chance to really focus on work. But as the world opens up again in the US, and now that I'm vaccinated, my friends are vaccinated, I am looking forward to having more balance between work and play, because really I get my energy from being social and hanging out with my family and my friends.
I'm glad that things are improving in the US and slowly improving globally with the pandemic. When it comes to now your book readers, what is your wish or hope for your book reader, the person who now goes, wow, I need to read How to Not Die Alone. I need Logan's tips. I really want to learn more. When they pick this book up, they read it and they finish it. What's your hope and wish for our readers now?
I would say if you haven't read the book yet, check it out, or go and check out the stuff on my Instagram at Logan Ury. I'm always talking about this tough love, real talk. Look, forget about the fairy tales, forget about the rom-coms, forget about the soulmates. These are the steps that you should take to find someone. And it's not giving up on your dream, and it's not settling. It's understanding what relationships are all about. And so whether you've read the book or not, I would say, what are your historical patterns? How are you getting in your own way? And let's figure out ways to help you act so that you can actually find and build this great relationship you're looking for.
You are so incredible, Logan Ury. Like, your work is amazing. Everything you do.
Yeah.
I love how you have made your dream also happen, your passion. Yeah. You really wanted to work in dating and relationships, and you were so fascinated by this topic. And to see what you've created provides such hope for other people out there that maybe have a topic that they love, that they're interested. If someone wanted to follow your path of creating their own dream, what would your words of wisdom be to them?
That's a great question. And sometimes I do look back and I just feel like I got lucky. I had supportive parents. I was able to go to a good college and meet the right people. And so I do feel like there's an amount of luck in there. But what I would say is figure out what you're really passionate about and what are the small steps that you can take to get closer to your dream. And so I didn't say 6 years ago, oh, I need to write this book with this title, with this topic, and work at a dating app. I just said, okay, what are the things I know about? I know about psychology. I'm interested in dating. Can I give a 5-minute talk about psychology plus dating? Can I bring in an expert and interview them? And so what are the small steps that you can take now that will help you get closer to your dream? And every step along the way, you will become more and more confident in what you're doing, open more doors, make more connections. And it's really not about seeing 5 years in advance, but maybe about seeing 1 year in advance, and really just moving closer and closer towards your dream.
Love, love, love it. And you are truly an expert and a leader in this field, and all of the work, all of the research, the curiosity, the interest, the passion, the drive truly shines. Logan Ury, I could speak to you forever. You are so incredible. I love your work. I love your book. And I'm so grateful and honored that I got the opportunity to sit down with you today, literally virtually, and with our global SPAITGIRL audience, so that together we could feel good from within. So thank you again for all that you are and all that you do.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad we got to connect. Thank you for all the flattering words. And it's really an honor to connect with your audience. And thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. Now, Logan, what's the best way to stay in touch with you after the podcast show?
So people can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Logan Ury. If anyone's interested in finding out their dating tendency, they can take the quiz on my website. It's loganury.com/quiz. And I do work with people in one-on-one coaching around the world. So people can find my email on the website and send me a note.
Well, we'll say goodbye to you, Logan. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Be sure to subscribe, to leave a rating and review, and to tell someone you love to. And together, let's feel good from within.